Hello students. Today I, Trishla Jain from Birla Vidya Niketan will introduce you to the next chapter of Class 8th titled The Canterville Ghost. This story, The Canterville Ghost, was written by Oscar Wilde and was first published serially in 1887 in the magazine Court and Society Review. But this story gained popularity only after 1891 when it was republished in an anthology of Wilde's works. The title of the story, The Canterville Ghost, gives the reader the impression that it is a horror story. But in this story, Wilde has integrated the macabre with comedy by bringing together devices from traditional English ghost stories such as creaking boards, clanking chains, and ancient prophecies, and the symbol of contemporary American consumerism. This makes the novel more of a parody of the genre than a truly frightening novel. The story begins when Mr. Hiram B. Otis, the American minister, buys Canterville Chase, an estate outside the town of Ascot in England, despite people warning him that it is haunted. In fact, Lord Canterville himself, who owns the Chase, wants Mr. Otis not to buy the house as it was haunted, for while he lived there, the ghost has caused his great aunts to have a fit and his wife could hardly sleep. But Mr. Hiram B. Otis, being a modern American, does not listen to him and ignores his warning and tells him that he was willing to buy the house along with the furniture and the ghost at its cost. A week after the purchase, on a pleasant July evening, the Otises moved to Canterville Chase. The Otis family included Mrs. Otis, who was very English in her ways, their eldest son Washington, who was named after George Washington, the first president of America, their 15-year-old Virginia, who was tall and blue-eyed, and the youngest Otises, the wild twin boys, whom the family calls the Stars and Stripes. As the Otises were moving towards the Canterville Chase, the lovely July evening suddenly changes. The sky darkens and heavy raindrops begin to fall. As they reach the Chase, they see the housekeeper, Mrs. Umney, standing there to welcome them. Mrs. Umney ushers the Otis family into the library, which is a sitting room where she has set up tea for them. As they are having tea, Mrs. Otis draws the housekeeper's attention to a red stain on the floor. To this, Mrs. Umney tells them that the stain is actually blood, and that the blood belonged to Lady Eleanora de Canterville, who was murdered on that spot by her husband, Sir Simon de Canterville, in 1575, almost 300 years back. She goes on to explain that Sir Simon vanished mysteriously 9 years later. While his body has never been found, his ghost haunts the Chase, and the stain has been there since then, and it cannot be removed. Being a modern American family who did not believe in ghosts, their eldest son Washington Otis cried, "That's all nonsense!" And he immediately took out Pinkerton's Champion Stain Remover and Paragon Detergent, and before the housekeeper can interfere and say something, he bent on his knees and rapidly removed the stain from the floor. Just that moment, thunder struck in the sky. The storm raged fiercely, and Mrs. Umney fainted. The next day, was warm and sunny, and the Otis family had a regular, uneventful day, except that the bloodstain was there again and Washington had to remove it once again. However, at night when the Otis family was sleeping, Mr. Otis was awakened by a curious noise, like the clank of a metal. It was 1 o'clock. Mr. Otis checked his pulse to see whether he had fever, and then he took out a bottle and opened the door. In front of him he saw the ghost, an old man with red burning eyes, long grey hair, ragged clothes, and heavy chains round his wrists and ankles. This sight would have frightened any normal human, but Mr. Otis was a modern American. Instead of being scared, he offered him the Tammany Rising Sun lubricator and advised him, "My dear sir, I really must insist on you oiling those chains." He then assured the ghost that he will provide him more of it if he needs it, and kept the bottle on the table, closed his door, and went off to sleep. Can you guess how the ghost must have felt? He was furious. Throwing the bottle on the floor, he left. And when he reached the top of the stairs, a large pillow was thrown at him by the twins. Now this was too much for the ghost, and he immediately disappeared through the wainscoting, that is the wooden paneling of the walls. Never in his brilliant career of 300 years had he been insulted like that. Instead of being scared, these modern Americans had the cheek to offer him the lubricator and throw pillows at him. The Canterville ghost was shocked. He thought of all those people whom he had scared to death in the past by using different tricks, and decided to take revenge on the Otises. The next whole week, nothing much happened, except for the reappearance of the bloodstain and its changing colors. The second time, when the ghost made its appearance, he was in for a shock then too, for not only did the twins shoot him with their pea shooters, but even Mr. Otis pointed a revolver at him and asked him to hold up his hands. The ghost was so furious that he shrieked and left the room like mist. On reaching his room, the ghost broke down. He became so agitated that he fell extremely ill and did not move out of his room for quite a few days. He decided to teach a lesson to the Otises and made careful plans to scare each one of them. To know what he planned, you will have to read the story. I assure you, you will enjoy it, and rather than getting goosebumps, you will be in peals of laughter.